Who are you? It's a simple question, with what feels like either a very simple or very difficult answer. But the truth is, you don't know who you are. You think you do. You think you're a name, a career, a parent, a believer, a nationality. You think you're your body, your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, but you're not. You are already enlightened. You are already awake. You just don't realize it yet. Your identity, your beliefs, your entire concept of reality and duality, they keep you from realizing the truth. The truth that you are none of these things. That these things are an illusion. But what is an illusion? An illusion is not just something that isn't real. It's something that's not what it appears to be. The world around us, the lives we live, they're happening. But they're not what we believe them to be. And thus, they're an illusion. All suffering is an illusion. All happiness is an illusion. There is no past. There is no future. There is only this moment, this eternal now. It is the only thing that is, and the only thing that will ever be. Everything else is a story. Everything else is an interpretation. You've been searching for enlightenment, for awakening, for God. You've looked in books, in rituals, in science, in prayer, all hoping you would eventually find it. But what if I told you, you've always had it? What if I told you, you are it? The oneness we all are, the non-separate, non-dual identity that we all share. It's been spoken of throughout history, understood and misunderstood. The Hindus call it Atman, the universal soul within us all. Zen Buddhism speaks of the big mind, the boundless awareness that transcends individual consciousness. Christ spoke of the oneness we all share under God, and then declared his oneness with God. I and the Father are one, he said. And if Christ is one with God, and we are one with Christ, are we not all one with God? This truth has been whispered through the ages, echoing in the silence between words, resonating in the space between thoughts. But we've been too busy listening to our minds, too caught up in our stories, to hear it. We've been so focused on becoming something that we've forgotten we already are everything. You are not your body. Your body can become injured or scarred, and yet you will still be you. You are not your likes or dislikes. Everything that you like, you can come to hate, and everything you hate, you can come to love, and you will still exist. You are not your job or your career. You can change these things, and you will still exist. You are not even your mind. You can lose your mind, and yet you will still exist. So then, what are you? When you strip away every little thing that you've ever defined yourself with, let go of every thought, of every experience, of even the very name that you identify with. When you don't attach yourself to a country, or a place of worship, or a position within a family, what you find hidden beneath the story of your existence is everything. The very energy of the world. The constant creation of reality taking shape and form. Life coming into existence at every moment and every second of the day. You are the eternal and the divine, the non-separate perfection, complete and perfect, missing nothing and needing nothing. You are not some separate person, sentenced to death the moment that you left your mother's womb. You are not some separate existence, in need of defining your life and completing yourself. You are the very universe expressing itself, just as a wave is something that the whole ocean does. You are what the entirety of the universe is doing. All those worries and those fears, those thoughts that you weren't good enough, were stories created by a mind that can't ever fully contemplate the grandness of your existence. Your suffering is an illusion. What you feel is suffering isn't. What you know of your suffering, you don't. This doesn't mean, however, that nothing is happening. This doesn't mean that where you are right now isn't painful. It is that you are not fully aware of what is actually happening, and thus your experience is an illusion. Like the man who mistakes a rope for a snake in the dark, your fear is real, your panic is real, but what you think you see is not what's really there. When I speak of an illusion, I'm not speaking of a delusion. It's not that there's nothing happening at all. It's that what you think is happening isn't what is happening. Like a magician that makes something disappear, that thing is actually gone. The illusion of its disappearance is real. But what we see and what is actually happening are two different things entirely. So too is suffering. That can be hard to hear. Many people who are suffering from ailments or have lost someone they care for and are experiencing grief or have had some horrible thing happen to them may blanch at the idea that they don't know what is truly causing their suffering. But that's why suffering is so tricky and so prevalent for people. For even the Buddha acknowledged that life is suffering, but also that suffering has a cause, and suffering can come to an end. And anything that ends is an illusion. Only the eternal is real. The very transient nature of suffering shows its illusory nature. But none of that means anything to a person in the throes of suffering. All good tidings and well wishes, all statements that what is happening isn't happening, will mean nothing to the person when they are suffering. And thus, we must begin with understanding suffering, so that anyone who wishes to or needs to can see it clearly and escape the illusion. Suffering is not the physical discomfort, nor even the emotional discomfort, or the worldly hardship that you experience. Suffering exists as the distress over the pain and hardship being experienced, which is to say that it is only in how we interpret the experience happening to us that we are suffering at all. If you make this one change of definition, you can begin to see your suffering clearer, separating it from extreme and possibly even crippling sensations that move through your body, separating it from the emotional upheavals that occur with loss of any kind, separating it from any challenge or problem that arises in your life. Realizing then, the truth of your suffering is when your desires do not match your external world, because that is when distress arises. Only when things are not happening as you want them to happen, as you think they should happen. Thus you suffer when you do not want to, or cannot accept the world as it is, instead allowing yourself to be wrapped up in the narrative in your mind, that things should not be as they are, that life could have been, or should have been, different from what is happening right now. You can accept the world for what it is. Understand that you do not suffer what is happening to you. You suffer your thoughts about what is happening. When you realize this, problems are no longer problems. Pain is no longer pain. Depression, loss, and hardship are no longer any of these things either. All of this is to say that anyone who can accept life as it is will not suffer life as it appears to happen. For when you don't define the events, bringing your stories and narratives to them, but rather meet them fully and completely, embracing and experiencing the emotions of what is happening, or what has happened, and then letting them go and accepting them for what they are, you will find peace, whether you're in heaven or hell. Called right view in Buddhism, it is in seeing things for what they truly are that you then can find peace. That a magician didn't make a woman disappear, that a rope is not a snake, that what you think is suffering is many things that are not suffering. It is in looking at the world without judgment. And when you start seeing things clearly for what they are, you can take the second step to liberation from suffering, in realizing that you are not you, that there is no John or Jane Q to actually suffer, that the identity that you hold on to, that the body that you think is causing you so much pain, that the life you feel so attached as your life is not what is actually yours or actually real. They are an illusion of your mind. They are all transient and will pass. But all of this, all that you experience, is experienced in the mind. The world is not the world as it is, but rather your mind's interpretation of the world. Damage the brain, and you can alter the perception of the world. Damage the brain, and you can alter the entirety of the person. Thus, who you are and what you perceive are only and ever the product of the mind. And when you can take that step to understand that you don't see things as they are, but rather as you understand them to be, then you can take the step of understanding that your suffering is an illusion, because there is no one to suffer. You are not the body. So the pain the body experiences, though it can be experienced very real and very challenging, is not who you are, and thus is not something happening to you, but just something happening. All emotions and all feelings are transient experiences created by how the brain understands the world around it. They are not you either. It is in realizing fully that you are not these things that suffer, that experience pain, that experience loss, that want the world to be different, that you can then experience life for all its glory, meeting the pain and the loss and moving beyond it, finding then your true self, the infinite and singular oneness that is everything. Letting go of the illusion of separation and finding the absolute peace and joy that is your birthright. You are perfect and complete. You are the eternal now. Embrace this truth and become enlightened.